G'day guys, today I was joined by Seth Jonas Piper and we talked about his amazing 9 out of 10 game winning streak with the World Eaters, running a really interesting Angron list and taking out first and third place at two separate recent events. So Seth's on an absolute killing spree and we break down his list in detail, the decisions that got him there, what worked, what didn't work. We do a summary of all 10 of his games, as well as break down his thoughts on World Eaters as a holistic faction and his plans going forward for the future. So if any of that sounds interesting to you, stick around. Now let's get stuck into the video.
Exalted.
Unlike some other gaming systems, Warhammer 40k often requires an absolute boatload of dice to play. For example, watch me roll out my attacks with these 20 Khorne Berserkers. Follow the links in the description to get your Exalted dice today. Alrighty, Seth, welcome to the show. You've recently gone 9 out of 10 wins running a competitive World Eaters list featuring Angron. So as soon as I saw that, I was like, I absolutely have to get this guy on the show and pick his brain because it's a really interesting list. So did you want to just kick us off with a bit of an introduction about yourself and the clubs and stuff you're associated with? And then we'll jump over, we'll talk about your list, we'll talk about the events, we'll talk about all of your games, and we'll talk about your thoughts on World Eaters as a faction. But yeah, take it away. Give us your bit of an introduction.
Good afternoon, everyone here in the U.S. I'm Seth Piper. I've been playing competitive 40k for about 8 years. I've been affiliated with a number of groups, different teams I've been a part of. Right now, my main team is SETH'S Off. We're located here in the center eastern side of the United States, or the southeast area. I've been playing for them for almost a year now. Yeah, it's the major parts of the team. Just check out our YouTube channel. We got all the games that I played. 3 of them out of the 10 are streamed and are free for everyone to view from our YouTube channel, SETH'S Off.
So do you guys on SETH'S Off, do you mostly do stream games, or do you like battle reports? Do you do tactical content? Like, what can people expect when they look you up?
So we mainly just stream GTs that we go to right now, and team games we play where we kind of like test the meta, where we play things to get certain lists or try out list ideas, and rather than just play it, in our garage, we'll film it, and then that way everyone can see, like, I had this idea, does it work? Yes or no? And here's the meta army I'm going to play it against. We are working on 2 major things. We're going to do a thing called a State of the Meta, where we are going to give kind of a review of what we think where the meta's at, good or bad. And then we are going to offer a kind of tactical overview in the near future, along with a coaching service that'll be run by me and 2 of the other gentlemen on the team.
Hell yeah, that sounds awesome, man. And it sounds like a great place for people to go if they want to watch some of the content that we're going to cover later in this video. So I'll make sure to put links in the description where people can find your channel and also find the specific games that we talk about. Now, before we get talking about your list, because there's some truly interesting stuff there and I look forward to picking your brain, tell us a little bit about the 2 events that you attended, because I understand you went to 2 5-round events, and out of those 10 games, you won 9 of them, which is very impressive. But tell us a little bit about the events themselves.
Okay, so the first event I went to was the Salem Witch Trials, run by another team that we're co-associated with in North Carolina. It's, I think, their first break of above 50 players. It was a 70-person event. It was really nice. It was ran out of a hotel event center. So like you could stay there and then also just go downstairs and play 40K. It was a lot of fun. They had a lot of wicked prize support. I got a 4 foot tall Titus chainsword for the championship bout. The second event was our event, and we run events out of VFWs, and then we donate majority of the proceeds to the VFWs, because the majority, I think all of us minus 1 dude, are vets or currently serving like myself. So we have a big proponent towards charity. I think we We donate it. We donate about 70 to 80% of the proceeds to whichever VFW we're part of. In addition to like the other stuff we do, like this last event, we did a Toys for Tot thing, and we're able to raise $1,000 worth of toys for charity.
That's awesome, man. I love hearing when events reach out to, local charities, local communities, and sort of give something back. We have a few groups that do similar things here in Melbourne, and I find those events always have the highest energy. They always have this real positive vibes to it. So yeah, that's really good to hear. What about things like the format, for example? So was it your standard battle, match play, standard WTC terrain, GW terrain? Like what about the format of the event?
So we use the GW layouts. We follow a majority of FLG or Frontline Gaming's rules and
Yep.
FAQs. Away games is another one we often reference, and of course we use the GW documents. But we don't really see WTC terrain here in the US like we do abroad. We see a lot of just the GW layouts. And out of all the events I've been to on the eastern half of the US, I have yet to see a WTC layout other than when I went to help one of my friends that played for Team USA get some practice in, and that's the only instance I've seen of it.
Interesting. Yeah, we get a fair mix here in Australia. We get some GW, some WTC, some like LGT, a bit of a mix, which can make it a bit interesting. But I guess if you know that you're going to be on that GW train, you can sort of make considerations in your list building,
Yep.
and sort of prepare for it. So that's probably a pretty good segue into talking about your list. So break it down for us as if you were, as if I was your opponent, and I said, yeah, tell me a little bit about your list, and then if you want to pivot into sort of what some of the decisions were behind the units.
Sure. So obviously my warlord is Angron. He has to be my warlord. I'll kind of do this unit by unit. So
Yep.
Angron, I picked him for one of two reasons. One, I love centerpieces. It's just always something when I played Necrons. I played the Silent King for ages, even whenever people said he was bad. Same thing with Magnus. Um, and then also, I feel like he's kind of a slept-on piece in capability. I've only had him come back one time, and it wasn't super relevant. But most of the time, I kind of play safe with him until there's not a great amount of threats to deal with him,
Yeah.
and then he can go out and just start munching through things. And that kind of, or even if there are a threat or two left to deal with him, they have to put everything into Angron. So like in several of my games, when Angron went in to delete something of value, he required my entire opponent's army to deal with him,
Yeah.
because he's a thing that you can't not kill. So you can't undercommit to him, because if you do, he's going to just mow down the roses in return. Next, I had Karn with a Berserker team and a party bus. It's just an all-around good package. Karn hits really hard. The benefit he gives Berserkers is just amazingly powerful, and it can really push them over the edge into certain things. And it can kind of guarantee that, like, if you're fighting something that's not above T10, you're converting a majority of your hits into wounds, and you can just drown things in saves. Karn himself, just an absolute monster. The stand-up is something that um, is really useful in a lot of games, because a lot of people will commit enough things to kill the unit, but not a follow-on to kill Karn again. So if he gets up, he gets to wreak havoc again. The Slaughter Lord with Berserker Glaive, I mean, in one of my games, he did 28 damage to a Squigoth. He just absolutely throws hands into things. Dev Wounds has been great. My last game of my last event, I played against Greater Demon Friend List, and he did 20 Dev Wounds to Scarbrand, which was just comically hilarious to both me and my opponent, as much as he hated it.
Yeah.
He joins an Exalted 8-bound team as just an added damage output in Deep Strike. I've only had them bring back a dude or two. Normally, the whole unit dies after they go kill something, because they're not incredibly durable, but they can demand an answer. I find a lot of my games in World Leaders is that do you have an answer for this? If you do, I probably lose, but like in most cases, if I force enough of like I kill something and then do you have another answer for this, then that wins. So I had 3 units of spawn. That's kind of my early opener. If I go first in every one of my games, I would normally scout 8, advance and charge, and the spawn are going to eat. I would try to target scoring units, because if I can limit your scoring units, I can generally control the game from there. Because if I can kill your kill units with my kill units, if you don't have a follow-on kill unit, then I can just kind of run away with the game.
Yeah.
The Jackals kind of change the mission depending on what I'm facing. If I'm fighting someone who's got a lot of deep strike potential, they're going to just screen my home field and keep my backline safe. If they don't, then normally one Jackal team's going to stick in my home, the other one's going to go to my natural, sticky my natural, and then they're just going to go gum up the table. They're paper thin, but like with Berserker getting the +2 strength and the +1 attack, they can start carving down even decent things. Like in one of my games, they went into a bunch of Marines, and I did hack and slash, and they just tore through a rank of Marines with just by volume of attacks and then wounding on 3s. I have 2 Forge Fiends. I think Forge Fiends, or at least some shooting, is necessary in World Leaders. If you have no shooting, your opponent can just disrespect you and put his units wherever he wants because you have no guns.
Yeah.
And I think that's a huge negative. I've had a bunch of people online message me and be like, oh, I want to make a Berserker list with no Forge Fiends. And I'm like, I mean, if you bring Predators or something, like you need a gun. You need some type of guns. I played a lot of Templars in 9th, and I said a lot of my lists were built with 70% melee, 30% guns, because I need just enough to cover the advance to connect with my opponent, and that's how I get there. And then I had 2 Exalted 8-bound, 1 regular 8-bound. The regular 8-bound would normally try to help clear screens with the spawn. I had somebody that was like really thought it was a waste of points because I put them into Eldari Rangers with 6-inch pylon, and then the spawn were able to go fight something else, but the 8-bound with the 6-inch pylon were able to get close enough to give the +1 hit aura.
Yeah.
And then spawn hitting on 3s suddenly turn into a crazy damage outcome. So regular 8-bound I normally use as another kind of like early game throwaway piece, clear off the mid-table, force you to have to deal with me with your actual threats. The Exalted 8-bound, both teams are always in reserve, one with the Slaughter Lord, and then in every game have Rapidum.
Yep.
And they'll deal with Vindicators, Dreadnoughts, Knights, Greater Demons. They're just so efficient into anything that's a monster vehicle. And their damage output, especially you kick lethal and sustain on them, like, yeah, cool, I only have 15 attacks, but I get 2 or 3 6s, and all of a sudden it's off to the races with them. And then, like I said, the last 2 units of Jackals, and that's the list. Funny enough, with the data slate, I went almost net negative or net positive, or net neutral. I went down 20 points and up 25, so I went from 1990 to 1995. So basically, everything stayed the same between Event 1 and Event 2 list-wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the breakdown of like most things. I've had a lot of questions about Angron. I'm sure you, like you said, you saw my results with Angron. I'm very interested. In a majority of games, Angron would play it safe. Normally turn 1, maybe turn 2, and then he would commit when I needed to kill something, or if I needed to pin my opponent. And what I mean by that is Angron goes and kills something, and then he's there, he's in your face, and you have to deal with him. And if you don't, he is just going to repeat the immediate damage he can output again. And alternatively, even when he dies, people have to consider the idea that he can just come back. And I saw that where my opponent left key units to prevent Angron from coming back, even though he didn't come back. But that forces them to have to think, like, if I roll 666s, he's just coming down in, and you have to deal with him again. And that was kind of useful. The one game he came back, it didn't really matter. I was so far ahead. He literally dropped in my opponent's deployment zone, did Locust, and that was it.
Yeah.
And came back on turn 5. But the threat, the psychological idea that, hey, Angron's coming back, or he can come back, has often kept my opponent on their toes of still screening when they probably didn't need to, but they don't know that. And if I get the 666, it's over.
Yeah, I wonder if there's I wonder if people still have a little bit of a hang up from the previous Angron, because people have been playing against him because not many competitive players field him. People might still be having that sort of knee-jerk reaction to Angron's resurrection from the old
Yep.
rules, because obviously the new rules, he can't rapid ingress because he has to arrive during your next movement phase, and you also lose all your blessings, and he comes back at half health, and like there's a lot of nerfs to him coming back to the point where it's not quite as scary. But I think people still have that feeling of, if I shoot Angron in turn one, you're going to have 4 to 5 opportunities to resurrect him. Is it really worth dedicating shooting into him now? And therefore they shoot all this other stuff and leave Angron alone, when in reality there's a decent chance you don't want to resurrect Angron because you want your army ride rules, or you know that resurrecting him is just going to have him drop down and do a locus or something. So I wonder if there's a little bit of a hang up there, that when people get a bit more familiar versing Angron with his new rules, they recognize that it's not as scary of a threat, that resurrection. But it sounds like that you're still able to use that to some effect, which is really good. I think
Yeah, 100%.
I think that quite a few of the elements in your list are staples of World Eaters players, right? So like the Khan unit, everybody knows what it does, everybody knows how good it is. The 8-bound. It's interesting that you kept the 8-bound and the Slaughterbound. I want to pick your brain a little bit on that, because I actually just released a video this morning sort of sharing my thoughts on the 8-bound and Slaughterbound, so I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. But then also, like people know what 8-bound do, people know what Spawn do, people know what Jackals do. So I think the two main areas that I want to sort of zero in on is obviously Angron, but also the 8-bound Slaughterbound. So you ran the Slaughterbound with the Glaive, correct?
Correct.
Yeah, so I was looking at it and I was like, that guy's now 135 points, which means you could run 3 Exalted 8-bound with the Slaughterbound, or you could just run 6 Exalted 8-bound. And I actually think in most cases, the 6 Exalted 8-bound are going to do more damage than the 3 with the Slaughterbound attached. And it also unlocks some interesting things with your pile-ins and your consolidate moves, and you got 6 OC instead of 4, and a few other bits and pieces. What are your thoughts on the Slaughterbound with this new update?
So, I mean, the biggest, I played, I think 5 practice games before I went to the first event with World Leaders. And I did originally have 3 units of Exalted 8-bound, no regular 8-bound. And then I had Goremongers originally. I got rid of the Goremongers immediately because, like, in the cases where people had infiltrators, I was like, the only game it mattered was, like, if I played against Tower, they have, like, 6 or 7 infiltrators. And if they go first, like, I want to stop all that immediate bleeding. But every other version, it's like, cool, you block my scout, I'm going to kill you immediately anyway.
Yeah.
And then I still get the result of you losing your score in unit, so it doesn't really matter. The Slaughter Lord was kind of the idea of, like, really the dev wounds.
Yeah.
Like, he can pop off. I've had him solo Land Raider. I've had him almost solo Magnus. He like I said earlier, he did 28 damage to a Squiggoth. Like, by himself, he doesn't sound impressive, but when you realize his weapon goes to 4 damage, and there is actually a breakpoint because there's a lot of vehicles that their wound characteristics are broken into numbers of 4s before 3s.
Yeah.
And then also, like, I had a game against Chaos Space Marines in the second event where I charged a Warp Talon team and a Predator, and the Exalted 8-bound went into the Warp Talons, and the Lord went into the Predator, and I killed both. Which I don't know. I mean, 6 would probably do the same in math, but the Lord presents this kind of weird thing where, like, in every game, everyone had to overcommit to him because they were so concerned about me bringing a dude back.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to the original idea of the list as, like, you have to overcommit to me, because if you don't, if I live, you're just going to get punished even more. Both is true with Angron and the Lord and his buddies. And I mean, they're not terribly, like, if you don't ignore cover, like, and you're not AP 3, like, I can go to ground, have 4-ups, or if I'm in cover, I have 4-ups. And the Lord's basically 2 of them stapled together, so the amount of wounds you're losing between the 2
it's very
without
comparable.
6-man to him is almost the same. So that's kind of my reasoning behind him. And then, I mean, like I said, a bunch of people online had messaged me about Angron, like, why not the footprints, the CP economy, all these other things. And really, like, Angron presents a unique opportunity to, 1, force my opponent to have to deal with him. 2, like, the only time, out of 10 games, the only thing he failed to kill was a Mutilate Vortex Beast. It was just, oh, I charged. I have 9 attacks. I rolled 5 ones.
Yeah.
Oh, I go to wound. I roll 3 ones and give you 2 saves or whatever it was. And I was like, oh, look, I don't kill this thing I thought I was killing. But in every other game, like he went into the Greater Unclean with Endless Gift, did 30-something damage to it, died to feel without enough feel no pains. Go into a Land Raider, go into a Wave Serpent, go into a rank of VICTRIX Guard. Like he can carve apart a lot of things.
Yeah, I think one of the things that people are discounting on him, I think, is that he has dev wounds against everything. He just has it on the weapon.
Yep.
Which means you can go into something like your VICTRIX Guard, and you're just like, oh, you've got invulnerable saves. Don't care. I'm going to chop you up with dev wounds. You know, you can go into the Great Unclean one where he's got that 4-up invulnerable save, and you're like, don't care. I've got dev wounds. I'm going to chop you up. So even though Angron lost the rerolls and therefore lost a little bit of lethality in that regard, I think the dev wounds more than makes up for it. And it means that just whatever he hits, he's very, very likely to brick it. There are a few things like, I mean, I've often said that you could take Angron or you could take like 2 Maulithines and you've got change. You have 40 points worth of change. And those 2 Maulithines, if they both charge the same thing that Angron would charge, there's every chance they're going to kill it too. But it also opens up your ability to split, you know, go in different directions. You could lose one without losing the other. Were there other things that you considered in place of Angron? Or like you said at the start, were you just like, you know what, I want that centerpiece model. I'm taking Angron regardless, and then I build the rest of the list around that.
So I mean, I did do a lot of internal like wargaming on the footprints with giving him Berserker Glaive and making him, or the helmet for -1 damage, and making either one of them either more killy or more defendable. I felt in some of my practice games that the footprints didn't demand the same level of answer that Angron does. Also, he's a little bit slower and he's not nearly as killy. I know on the charge he gets dev wounds, so it's kind of the same, but you know, if you take the glaive and go flat 4, it's nice, but D6 plus 2, the amount of times you just roll a 3 or 4 and you're doing 5 or 6 damage, or you roll a 6 and you're like, cool, my 1 dev wound is doing 8 damage to this thing. And that just pours over more. And also, like, the survivability to return, like, the footprints, like, even with the helm, like, he got killed by 2 squads of Noise Marines, and I was like, I'm not seeing the damage output that I really wanted with him.
Yeah.
Or the survivability. Angron, that little T11 difference to T10 has actually made a lot of difference in a lot of games.
Oh, yeah.
So, one of my big practice games against a buddy of mine playing Tau, and my other one playing Death Guard, and a lot of their guns are like strength 9 or 10, so like even with the -1 toughness, I'm still 10. You're going only to 4s at best. If I'm in Plague Range or like for Tau, like you're wounding me on 5s or 6s a lot of the time, or like 4s if you're shooting a really big gun. And most of them, like, they bring maybe 2 Sky Rays or like a Hammerhead or 2, and it's like, I make a 4-up and you don't do anything, or I make 1 or 2 4-ups and it's like, cool, I took 3 damage, I don't care.
Yeah.
So,
well, it's the Lancer problem, right? It's where you've got this really big, tough thing, so therefore you require heavy weaponry, but heavy weaponry doesn't have a lot of shots, and it has a 4-up invulnerable save. So all of a sudden, when they've got very limited number of shots and half of them aren't even hurting you, it becomes really tricky to solve, right? Whereas something that's a little bit squishier, you can hit it with volume of small attacks and actually kill it, or you don't require quite as many big attacks to actually take it down, making them a bit more manageable, whereas Angron falls just a little bit outside of the realm of manageable, which was something that we used to all know. Everybody used to know this about Angron, was that you send him in, he's actually kind of hard to kill. You know, they charge a unit in and you put -1 damage on him, and all of a sudden they're just not killing Angron, and then Angron's going to blend whatever just charged him. We all knew this, but then I think everybody had this bit of a knee-jerk reaction to his rules change and have completely discarded him, and I know I'm even guilty of this. But with these points changes, maybe it's, you know, something that needs to be seriously reconsidered. So yeah, it's inspiring to see that you were able to field him and you know, get those results, which is really, really good. G'day guys, check out our merchandise at exalted40k.com, including sets of range rulers with 9, 6, 3, 2 and 1 inch faces, as well as 1 inch markings all the way along, making quick and accurate measurements a breeze. Rectangular blessings trackers for convenient record keeping, and chain axe blessing trackers for when merely taking records is not good enough. Dice and dice trays that in tandem ensure your rolls do not betray you like a certain someone on the killing fields of Scalathrax. Objective markers for an exalted gaming experience that are just begging to be drowned in the blood of friend or foe on the battlefield. Show your support for the channel and head over to exalted40k.com to equip yourself as an exalted wargamer today. What we might do now is talk a little bit about your games. So I know there's 10 games. I don't want to spend 10 minutes on each one because otherwise we'll be here all night. But if you want to maybe just just say that the faction that you versed, what the sort of score was, and pick like one notable moment from each game. Perhaps one of the moments where Angron either shined or didn't perform.
Yep. So starting with the first event I went to, which was the Salem Witch Trials. My first game was streamed, again, on our YouTube. And I played against ORKS on live. He was doing the big hunt. It was interesting. It was kind of a cool idea. He brought up the big squig off. The only two things of real interest was like at one point, Angron killed a kill rig, piled into some other stuff, tied up a bunch of things, and then the Slaughter Lord went into the squig off and, like I said, did 28 damage to it, almost killing it, and then the squad picked it up. It was a little funny. It was the dude's first live game, and he accidentally brought an extra squad of tank busters. It did not change the outcome, but we were able to fix his list going into the next one. That score was 89-38. Yep. My next game was against Thousand Suns, Grand Coven. I was a little concerned about Magnus shooting with like +1 to wound and full rerolls and like going into things, but he was so afraid of Angron that he kept Magnus in the rear for 3 turns, and eventually I was able to wrap it in the Slaughter Lord team and charge Magnus. Crazy outcome of dice. He only failed. The Slaughter Lord put Magnus to a wound, and then the squad gave him 9 saves, and he only failed 2. He command point rerolled 1, passed it, and then blanked the second one and lived on a wound.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's also one where Angron went into the Mutalith Warbeast and only got 2 hits through. I was like 5 ones to hit, 3 ones to wound, and I was like, cool, I guess Angron will not kill this thing now. Yeah. That game ended with an 86-49, same story, killed all the scoring pieces, and Magnus was alive until the bitter end, but like it didn't really matter. My third game, this is my first game against the VICTRIX Guard. It's also on our YouTube. Played against a buddy of mine named Water. In that game, he had 2 units of VICTRIX Guard, and in both instances, the Exalted 8-bound fought on death, got a bajillion attacks into him because I had sustained hits, and then gave him a bunch of AP3 saves and killed a bunch before he was able to do anything. It was also a game where Angron was able to just run around on the far side of the table and just start killing everything because the VICTRIX Guards were 20-something inches away. So I was like, I'm just going to start killing dreadnoughts and vehicles, and eventually I'll go take your home with Angron because I'm just going to kill everything. We called the game because he kind of realized that he was stuck with only 2 pieces left to play the game, and we just kind of called it. My fourth game was against another buddy, Riley, playing for the team X and O, or X and 4, and he was playing Aspect Host before the most recent nerfs, and there was a point where my spawn tagged his Wave Serpent, and he wanted to get his Fire Dragons out to shoot a Forge Fiend, but he checked it and realized that even with the Disembark, he needed a 5 or a 6 to get into Melter range. So he used the movement token from the Agile Maneuver for +2 movement, and then got 4 or 5 dudes in Melter range, but he could not then turn off Overwatch. They were the closest thing to my Forge Fiend. They're a 10 unit. Yeah. So I fired Overwatch, and I handed him 8 saves, and he failed 6 or 7 of them.
Yeah. And
immediately realized, he was like, oh shit, I don't have a way to kill Angron anymore. Yeah. And then same story, Angron just was on the other side of the table, just killing a random Dark Reaper squad or Witch squad or any of the scoring units. And then I was like, I'm going to take your home. And we reached the top of 4, and he was like, I can't kill Angron, and I've lost my home, so we're just going to call it. And That game was 175. With Eldar, he still maxed secondaries, which was just funny to me. But like that's kind of what they do. 3 Warp Spider teams, 3 Swooping Hawk teams. It's kind of hard not to max primary or secondaries, correction.
Yeah.
My last game there was a very interesting one. I played against a guy I played against it at the American Team Championship many, many years ago. And he was playing the Witch Cult Spectacleless Fight for Drukhari. And they have a really interesting stratagem that allows them at the end of your opponent's movement phase that if you end a move within 9 of a Witch Cult unit, they can reactively charge. But it's in the end of your movement, and it's really good. So I had to play kind of cagey or put things into them that, like, you have to go to the close, or whatever you pick, you have to go into that, so you can't go into 2 things. So, like, I would have 2 units of spawn, or spawn an 8-bound, or something.
Yeah,
and
so
like
it goes into one, and then you can counter-charge with the other.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, that's
but
clever.
The funniest part was he had a 10-man Hellion team, which they can hit really hard. But I had Angron an inch away from him, and I was like, would you like to charge Angron? And he was like, no, I'm good. And then Angron killed him anyway, but...
Yeah.
That game, he was so worried about the Forge Fiend Overwatch that he spent almost an hour of his 90 minutes trying to prevent me from lining up shots into the like anything. Yeah. My Forge Fiends didn't shoot almost anything other than Overwatch, but like it ate up an hour of his clock doing that. And I don't know if that was really worth it at the end of the day. And we ended that game 71-57, making me 5-0 at the Salem Witch Trials. There was another undefeated player, but I think we were doing opponent win percentage was the second metrics, and 2 of his opponents had dropped from the event, and it just tanked his opponent win percentage so hard. Yeah. Which is kind of why
for him, but I mean, it is what it is.
Yep. And so I took first there out of 70 people. It was a great event. And that was my first GT win with current world leaders. Then we go to our event, and I started off my first game. I played against the new Harlequin Grot Mist attachment. It was very interesting. There was a lot of movement shenanigans, but their melee doesn't trade really well into a lot of things, and they're just smoking a lot of hopium for dev wounds. Like, everything in melee has dev wounds. Yay, cool. But I mean, even with like 20 attacks, you're only rolling like 4 or 5 6s. So like you're not really doing anything of grave consequence. That game, probably the funniest thing, Angron went in to kill a falcon, or a wave serpent that was, and his entire army went in to kill Angron because he didn't really have a good shooting option for him. He did end up getting lucky and shooting Angron to death with fusion pistols. Angron exploded and then did 30-something wounds to the elves that were all around him. Yeah, the D6 Deadly Demise was a game-ending outcome there.
Yeah.
I mean, elves are already squishy and expensive, so that many wounds gone away is just crippling. So that game ended 95-42. My next game, I played against a gentleman playing Black Templar Gladius, which is one of my favorite detachments and armies in the game. He brought 2 Reaper Executioners with 3 Sword Bro teams, a Sword Bro team, and a drop pod. Some other scoring units, and that was basically it. I killed all the scoring unit with spawn or 8-bound, and I was able to rapid in the Exalted and kill the Executioners. He got lucky in Overwatch once and killed the whole team of Exalted 8-bound, which was just really brutal to me, but it kind of didn't matter because Angron was there to make the difference anyway. That game ended 98-45 in my favor. I kind of kept him in his deployment zone until like turn 5, but by then I was kind of out of everything, but it didn't really matter. My third game was streamed. I was against one of the other guys from X&4, Clay, playing Gladius with VICTRIX Guard. This is my second game on stream against VICTRIX Guard. And if you go back and watch it, you'll see how many unfortunate times I'm like, here's 9 saves. And he's like, oh, I made 7 of them. I'm like, okay. Or here's 15 saves. Oh, I made 12 of them. Okay. And I was not able to trade into him at all that time. He made enough saves because I need to kill them, even if I overcommit, which is fine. But in both instances, even with an overcommit, it did not work. Like the worst one, Angron went into a whole squad, killed an entire squad of VICTRIX Guard by himself, but left Calgar on 1 wound, and Calgar in return took half of Angron's health. Yeah. So that was just an unfortunate event. Now, it was the only counter kind of funny part to it. The second VICTRIX Guard went into Angron, and I did -1 damage, and they only did like 4 damage to him. Yeah. Because He was just too beastly to take apart. I lost that game, which was kind of sad, but there was only so much I could do. You make enough saves, I don't really have a counter to it.
Yeah, yeah.
Looking back, I kind of think I should have taken if I had the opportunity to take the mortal wounds against infantry and try to weed out the Victrix guard that way. But I didn't think about it till it was too late. But that could have actually been a good play that way.
Yeah.
Now my next game was against another friend of mine, Ken, who was playing Chaos Space Marines. He was doing Renegade Raiders, which I personally think, we talked about a little bit, is a better detachment for them than Packbound. Packbound, you can explode if you get lucky with dice, but you're not really getting the value that you want to see out of your Chaos Space Marines. We had two kind of defining moments there. One I talked about briefly earlier was when the Slaughterlord team and the Exalted 8-Bound went in, were able to clean up a whole squad of Warp Talons and a Predator. But the keynote in that game was basically kill the two Vindicators so that Angron was just not really something that could die. One Vindicator fell early on to a regular 8-Bound team with with lethal and sustain and +1 AP, and they were able to cut down Vindicator. And then Karn's squad almost killed the second one, which also took like 6 mortal wounds to Pax because he failed a bunch of his pack rolls on this other Vindicator. Karn died, stood up, threw a grenade, put the Vindicator to a wound, overloaded his plasma, killed it, but then died because I couldn't reroll it because I was within 12 of Cypher. So, but the trade was great because I was like, okay, Angron can do whatever he wants now because he's not really in threat. Yeah. And then Angron went in, killed the Disco Lord. I dev wounded it to death. I did like 15 mortal wounds to a Disco Lord, and then I was like, cool, Angron's in the middle of the table and can do whatever he wants because you can't threaten him anymore. And then my last game there, the game with Ken ended 88-55, my favor. My last game, I played against Tony with his Super Friends Demon List, and the list, I kind of like it with the changes, but I don't think it was really what he needed. He brought Lord of Change with Everstaff, Kairos, Be'lakor, Scarbrand, and a Greater Unclean with Endoskiff, 3 squads of dogs, 1 Plague Bearer team, and then a Screamer team. I went first. The Spawn moved up in charge, 2 squads of dogs and the Screamers, killed a bunch of the scoring units, and then left him in his home. Angron moved up, killed the Greater Unclean one, died immediately to Scarbrand, and then Scarbrand died to dev wounds by the Slaughterlord. I went in, lethal and sustain, 11 attacks, had his birthday, rolled 4 6s, and just exploded into like 15 swings, and then rolled 5 6s on the wounds, just did 20 mortals to Scarbrand and beat him to death. I was like, the most I've ever done was 12 before that, so I was like, oh my god, he just immediately deleted Scarbrand, even without saves.
Yeah.
That game, the whole thing was kill the scoring units, leave the big dudes, kill a big dude or 2, and then he's just not going to have enough things to play the game with.
Yeah.
And we ended up 88-64, and that was the end result, going 4-1 there. So again, 9-1 in total between 2 events. Only loss being to a 15-man Victrix guard list. So many 2-ups, all the Dreadnoughts, all the Victrix guard, like the whole army has a 2-up other than a couple scoring units, and it's just really hard for, like, I can hack and slash, you can AOC, we go back to the same math, and like it just doesn't work in our favor.
Yeah, it becomes really hard for the Spawn and the Berserkers to do anything relevant when there's that many 2-ups.
Yeah, like the real nail in the coffin in that game was Karn's unit going in to kill a Victrix guard team. He fights on death and kills everything but Karn and a dude, and I'm like, well,
yeah,
like I don't have any more tools to fight this fight, so I'm gonna lose. But that was kind of the end of it. Like, the one thing that is really nice, for FLG's sake, fight on death is an out of phase activation. You can't AOC.
Correct.
So like things that are 2 or 3 is really nice, and I can prevent that from happening. But I think, kind of looking back on it, what I should have taken in Blessings, because another good thing with Angron is I almost always took the reroll 6 dice, and I can kind of get whatever I want.
Yeah, well, that was actually going to be my next question, was with Angron's various new Blessings abilities things. With these, got the 3 options. There's the reroll 6 of your Blessings. There's the prevent your opponents from falling back. and then the
Yep.
third one is ignoring modifiers to move and hit rolls, right?
Yep.
Was there any of those that you leaned on more heavily throughout the event, or what was your sort of approach to that?
So out of all the games, I think I took the no fallback maybe 3 times. I never took the movement or ballistics or hit one. I considered it in like list construction for armies that have like -2 movement abilities like
Yeah,
Votan or Tau. I just never had any of those games at the GTs. Um, the fallback one being an aura is nice, and it did work against the Harlequin player where I forced him to get stuck in combat, so he had to hit on 4s with his clowns into me. But otherwise, like most of the time, the blessings, because I want to guarantee most of the time I either want lethal and sustain, or I want like sustain and fight on death, or like Eldar things I'm just going to overkill anyways. I want like fight on death and 6-inch pylon so I can fight through ranks of dudes.
yeah. Oh, and there's
But
nothing more
Angron,
devastating than when you roll your 8 dice and you roll like 2 1s, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6, and you're just like,
yeah.
shit.
So in my game with the Chaos player, Ken, I rolled. I got 2 6s, and then I think it was 2 1s, and then like 2 3 4 5. And I was like, cool. The 2 6s I'm taking sustain. I re-rolled the other 6, and they were 1 2 3 4 5 6. And I was like, I can't take a second blessing.
Oh no. You should have kept the 2 1s.
And I was like, well, it's like because I was like, I really wanted in this case I wanted fight on death, so I wanted like double 3 up. So I was like, I'll re-roll everything. I didn't have a 3 in that math.
Yeah.
Or I had A3. I should have kept it and then re-rolled, but I just kind of picked it up because we were playing.
Yeah.
BFW sell alcohol real cheap here in the U.S., so
Oh, nice.
we were having a good time, and I was like, well, I should have just kept the 3, but it's too late. At that point, it kind of didn't matter, but that's the only instance of it happening. But that was kind of a key thing when I was discussing with a couple of my friends in my local group and our team with taking Angron was mathematically, if I take the reroll 6, I should have like an 87% chance of picking any 2 combinations I want.
Yeah.
It only changes a little bit. If you remove Decapitating Strike, the math is like 91%. So I just kind of put that out of my mind, and I think that came into kind of a misplay on my own half with the second game against VICTRIX Guard. Is I should have just taken the Decapitating Strike every time, and then 6s just go straight through on VICTRIX Guard. But I didn't think about it until like turn 4, and I was like, damn it. If you go on my Facebook, I have a really cool placard that I'll actually give me a second. I'll go grab it. It's really cool. So this is my blessings tracker.
Ah, yes. I have one of those. Same design, but with the old blessings in it. They're very cool.
Oh, nice. Yes. The gentleman that made these, I saw that he just updated it for the new stuff like a month ago.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got to get one. And I have another friend of mine who offered to paint it. So I'm going to get it painted here in the near future.
I wonder where is mine in here? No. I don't know where I put mine, but I painted mine as well. They're actually quite fun to paint. But yeah, no, those blessing trackers are really, really good. And they look super cool.
Yeah, well, I mean, for somebody that plays a lot of competitive 40K, I have a lot of little tokens and stuff. Like, my main army is Mechanicus, and there's a bajillion things to track in that game.
Oh, yeah.
And I played a friend of mine, same thing, we're at a VFW, we're drinking, we're having a good time, and he forgot about one of my abilities, and it really hurt his, like, chance to win because he forgot, like, that I had that.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's a fair point. And I was like, hey, man, I'm going to get tokens going forward. And then he has a 3D printer, and he printed me all my AdMech tokens. So I have a bajillion AdMech tokens for everything. And now, like, I joke, but, like, I for real have, like, 15 little widgets on the table that are marking things for Mechanicus because there's so many moving parts, which is only fitting for them being, you know, as weird and complex as they are.
Yeah, I actually think that in this day and age, it should almost be mandatory. Like, it should be a tournament expectation that you have something to track your rules, because there's nothing more frustrating than when your opponent goes, cool, I'm doing this ability, this, that, there, all these command phase abilities, and then you get into your turn and you completely forgot that they had something, and it's like, it's such a complex game, it's so hard to navigate. If you're not helping your opponent out by providing that information, I feel like you're kind of doing them a disservice. And I believe the same thing. So that's why I always have my blessings tracker sitting somewhere so that during their turn they can look over and be like, oh yeah, he's got fight on death. Okay, that'll inform
Yep.
my decisions. Or because sometimes
But
like you roll it at the start of your at the start of the battle
yep.
round, you have your turn. Then by the time they're having their turn, so much time has passed. Like it's very
Yep.
reasonable that they're going to forget what you have.
So, I mean, I think that it goes beyond just basic trackers, but like you'll watch in my game against the VICTRIX guard player in the second event, he left his spawn alive on 2 wounds, and then we went to my turn. I started moving things, and he had a Gravis captain sitting there to charge it, but just forgot because he got focused on killing other things.
Yeah.
And I go back and I'm like, hey, do you want to charge and kill it? And he's like, oh shit, I forgot to kill it. And then he charges it and we go through it. And I think that's just a one of the things I hate a lot, and this comes from when I played in California in the U.S. The meta there was super toxic. It was as much angle shooting as humanly possible.
Okay.
Like, oh, you didn't know my rule sucks to be you. Cool. Guess what? This is what's happening now.
Yeah.
Um,
No, I hate that.
and yeah, and it's just it's like a scummy way to win. It's like that I always said it was like the used car salesman thing. Like if you have to cheat to win, like, and I know it's not necessarily cheating, but it's kind of on that verge of like just poor
Well,
like human behavior.
it's ethically questionable, right? Like, and the thing is I find that the higher you get in the game, the less you see
Yeah.
that. I remember
Yep.
playing at WTC, so I'm literally playing representing Australia at the World Championships. This is the highest stakes 40k that I've ever played in my life. And I was
Yep.
playing against the bloke from France, right? And now these are the top.
Yep.
These were the favourites to win. This was a really.
Yep.
We were undefeated at the time. Like we were going in, we were trying to win this game. It was really, really important. And I have this thing where I'm always super clear with what my game plan is. I arguably give up more information than I should. But what I do
Yep.
is at the start of the turn, I draw my cards, I think about it for a minute, and then I basically vocalize my entire turn. I'm like, cool, here's my plan. These guys are going to move out here. They're going to charge that unit over there. In this specific example, I got area denial. So I was like, cool, they're going to move out. This berserker unit's going to charge that unit of warriors over there, and I'm going to use their charge move to swing them around to get them onto that center objective for area denial. So I've said that. Then we go into my turn. I'm doing my things. I'm going around. I'm doing my charges. And then I forgot and did a pile-in move, which moved my units out of that 3 inches of the center. So now I
Yeah.
don't get area denial anymore. But my opponent was just like, well, you said it at the start that was your plan, so just move the guy back.
Yep.
And I'm like, yes, that is the correct way to play 40k. I've made it
Yep.
clear this is my intent. You don't care that I've just made a minor error in movement because we're two gentlemen playing to intent. And that's how the game should be played. That's how the best players in the world play it. It's really
Yep.
disappointing when you verse somebody who just goes, oh, would you look at that? You forgot to charge with something. You've actually made attacks over here now, so I'm not going to let you make that charge. And it's like, but I had every intent to do it. I told you that was my plan. It's just a
Yep.
sequencing error that doesn't matter. It doesn't impact the game because that fight over there is never going to impact this fight here. But some people will hold you to that.
So my personal favorite story of this, and this is a little small tangent. Many moons ago, I went to a GT in early ninth playing Necrons, and at the time, the Veil was written as a way, the Veil of Darkness, where if you wanted to use it, you left in your command phase, then you had to come back in the following reinforcement step.
Yep.
This person coaxed me into shooting. I set up a Doomsday Arc to shoot a key target. And he was like, oh, yeah, oh, man, I didn't know that angle. And he's like, you want to roll those? And I was like, okay, sure. And I rolled my attacks, rolled hits, wounds, damage. And then he was like, oh, you didn't bring in your warriors. They're dead. And I was like, okay. And I was like, let's get the judge. And the judge was like, cool, here's the options, right? You guys are both responsible for board state. You're both getting a yellow. Or, what else? And I was like, how about they're just dead? And we just play the game. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm going to beat you without 320 points right now.
Yeah.
And then I did, and I won like 86 to 50 something. And I looked at him and I was like, that little ploy did not matter. I always make a joke. I give the energy I get. So in a lot of my games, stakes, regardless what they are, I played for $1,000 cash prizes, $2,000 cash prizes before, and given my opponent all the. There's a really good one back in like 22. I played a buddy of mine, Andy Patton, on stream for a winner takes all event, and it was $1,800 cash.
Yeah.
And he couldn't figure out he drew secondaries. I think this was like early ninth or late eighth. He drew secondaries, couldn't figure out what he was doing. I said, hey man, I have this many points. If you can get in my deployment zone for behind, you will get 2 more points, which will get you ahead by 1. And we were like, you have a lone dude. If you have to auto pass battle shock, and if you roll the advance, and we checked it like 3 times, like you get a 5, you make it, and then you get the points. And he rolled a 3, and he was like, good game, and I won by 1 point. But that's the point, is that
you were helping.
Regardless,
it's essentially one of those things where it's you and your opponent have to work together to make sure that the game plays correctly. And then you want to win by playing it correctly. You don't want to win by them playing incorrectly and you going, haha. Like that's I couldn't imagine walking away from an event that I won in that way and feeling good about myself. And I also think this is a tangent that I go on almost every time I do one of these interviews, but it bears repeating, is that if you win a lot of games by taking advantage of your opponent's mistakes like that, you won't learn how to beat somebody that doesn't make mistakes like that. And as a result, you'll always just win games against those mid-tier players that forget things or do things out of sequence or whatever. But then as soon as you go into a top player who doesn't make those mistakes, you're going to lose. If you want to beat the top player, what you need to do is help those mid-tier players play as if they're a top-tier player and still beat them. And then you develop the skills, and then you can take those skills into the games with the top players. And that's why I think you find that most top players are very forgiving when it comes to sequencing errors, or, you know, oh, you forgot to declare an oath target, I guess you don't get Oath of Moment. It's like, no, they're going to let you get an Oath of Moment even if you've started your shooting phase. Like, just do it, you know. I think that's really important.
I made the comment when with a lot of the like new players we're teaching here, I had a couple of them that they played against a bad apple, if you will, and he did that to them in like pickup games. And I was like, the thing is, you'll see like 70% of players, they want to play to have fun, win or lose. And the ones out of that 70% that want to get better are going to try, but the next 15 to 20% will do anything to win. They'll angle shoot you. They won't tell you they have fights first, something like that. But then the top 10 to 15%, they'll explain everything. They'll give you every advantage to try and fix your mistake. And that's really, like you said, like I played against all the guys from Art of War. I've played against a lot of the WTC guys. I've never had, in those top games with those people, I've never had an issue with like, I forgot to do something, and fix it, yeah, clearly you meant to do that, absolutely. Like same thing, like your area denial, I have a behind enemy lines story, same story. I just forgot to pile them in, and I was like, oh shit, we already went on to your movement phase. And he's like, well, they can clearly pile in, so let's fix that real quick and then get you your points. Like, I've never encountered somebody in that top 10 to 15% of players that's acted that way. And even then, like, again, like that 70% of player mark, like most of them, friend or foe, are correct things. That's why I tell a lot of people, I give the energy I get. You can tell very quickly if somebody's playing the game because they want to play the game, or if they have to win to have fun. And those people are, like, our community is very quick to remove people that act that way. And the whole region between like Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Tennessee, we very quickly expunge those people. We try to do like a forgive and forget policy on the first one. You know, hey man, mind your P's and Q's. It's normally when you see the pattern, it's like, look, we tried to help you, you ain't listening. Like, there's only so much we can fight.
I really like that phrase, give the energy you get. Because people will know, like, if you ask people, that you'll hear tons of stories of me not letting people have those takebacks. But it's always, without fail, after they've done something similar to me before, where I'm just like, I know how you play Warhammer. And I'm not gonna, if that's how you want to play, if you're setting that tone, I can meet you there and I'll win. Like, I don't like playing that way, but if that's what you want, then that's what we'll do. And there are some exceptions to this. Like, for example, if it's a top game and it's against somebody that you've played several times before, they know your army like the back of your hand, and you've had conversations with them, and then they make a mistake, like let's say they forget that you had fights first on your unit or something like that, and you're like, well, you should. Or the best example I have for World Eaters is the sticking objectives on death, right?
Oh, yeah,
We've had that rule for the entire edition. You know, if I've played somebody multiple times, they know that I can do this. If they go into their shooting phase and shoot something off an objective, and I go, cool, I'm going to spend a command point to sticky it, and then they go, oh, do you mind if I just move this unit over there onto the objective so you can't? I'll be like, well, yeah, I actually kind of do mind. Like, you know this, come on. Like, I'm not going to play the game for you so that you win.
Yeah.
There's a line, and I think for each person that line's going to vary, and in each circumstance that line's going to vary a little bit. But generally speaking, I'll generally let my opponents set the pace of that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So, I mean, like here in the U.S. at least, like we have, kind of like everywhere else, we have our problem children. And again, like I said, being a forgive and forget kind of thing like this, I try to give the energy I get. I've had people try to do silliness. My favorite one was like, I think it was early 9th. I was playing Templar against Death Guard, and this guy was like, "Oh, I forgot to use banners on this objective," after he started shooting. And I was like, "Yeah, sure," or whatever it was. And I was like, "Yeah, sure, fix it." And then I go to my turn, I'm doing stuff, and I'm like, "Oh, by the way, these 2 units on objectives are going to banners." And he's like, "Nope, you're past that point." And I was like, "Okay, cool. That's the game we're playing."
Yeah.
And later on, I had the secondary, bathe your blade in the blood of the foe. It's like I pick a character, my character kills it melee, I get 15 points. And the Emperor's Champion went there to kill Typhus. I almost killed him. He got away from me. He fell back, but I had Devout Push, and he put a squad of Plague Marines between me. And I was like, cool, well, the Emperor's Champion can move into the Plague Marines, and then I can pile in towards the character, and I'll go kill Typhus. And he's like, oh, well, if I moved an inch away, you couldn't do it. And I was like...
There's something about that, like, karmic justice that's so satisfying.
Yeah. I told him, I said, it's funny, if you had let me use those banners, I wouldn't have done this. I would have told you about it.
Yeah.
And then you would have won this game. But since you chose to play that way, you're going to eat the cake you made. So this is where we're at. I had there's a couple people down in Florida that really didn't like me because I did that. And I was like, look, they did it first, and I only returned it. I mean, I work in the U.S. military. I work for Battlefield Analytics. I worked in psychological warfare. Like, you're not going to psych me out. And I promise you, when it comes to being a stiffler for rules, I can be it way worse than you can. And I don't want to play that way because it makes the game not fun.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the thing.
I mean, there are some people that will make the argument that we shouldn't lower ourselves to their level. Like, if they're going to play like that, let them be miserable people and play that way. We shouldn't lower to their level. But I just think that if you approach it with that perspective, these people get away with it. And then they walk around and they just keep doing this to innocent people who don't do this.
Yep.
And they never have to pay the price. So I think that it's sort of beholden on those who can hold them to account to do so. I'll give one last anecdote. With I was playing against an Imperial Knights guy at a Teams event, and I I was the team captain. I did my movement phase. Sorry, it was his. I did my movement phase. There was an opportunity to rapid ingress, or deep strike something. And the TO called me over to ask a question about one of the other games. So I had to leave the table. And then when I got back, here's what it was. It was a consolidate move. So I just finished a fight. Okay. I wanted to consolidate onto an objective. So I just finished making attacks, but I hadn't done my consolidate move yet. The TO called me over. I had the conversation with them. That took a couple of minutes. I came back to the table and I was like, oh, where were we? And he's like, oh, the fight phase is finished. I'm like, oh, yep, cool. I'll put my scores in. And then I look down and he's still holding the objective. And I'm like, oh, sorry, I meant to consolidate on. And he's like, no, sorry, your turn's finished. And I was like, bro, like, nothing has happened. We've just moved into your turn. Nobody's moved anything. Nothing's happened. I'm going to consolidate these guys on. He's like, nope, I can't let you do that because, I've already drawn my secondaries. Like, and I'm like, I just looked in dead in the eyes. I was like, are you sure you want to play this way? I don't think you do. I don't want to.
Yeah.
But if you want to play this way, then I'm not going to stop you. And he just looks me back in the eyes. He's like, yes, I want to play this way. And I'm like, okay, cool. So he got his extra 5 points of primary. Then we went into my next turn, and he had some carnivores in deep strike that he was going to rapid ingress. And I've just moved up my units. And then when I just about finished my last move, I just shot with my Berserker's bolt pistols. And he was just like, oh, I was going to rapid ingress. And I'm like, oh, sorry, mate, I've actually started my shooting. So I can't let you... Sorry, I would love to let you have it. I'd love to let you have that take back, but you established that we're not playing that game. And he was so mad. But I was just like, no, if you're gonna do that, you're setting the terms, and I can play within those terms. I hate doing it. I hate doing it. but hopefully he walked away from that and learned that lesson, that
Yeah.
if you try to be a dick to your opponent, you're opening yourself up for retaliation. And
Yep.
hopefully he's reformed.
I use the term steward of the profession or steward of the hobby.
Oh yeah,
Like
that's good.
some of those people just need, most of those people, I don't know what it is. They just need to win a game or two.
Yeah.
But give them one little swift kick in the buttocks, and they fix themselves 90% of the time. Which is again why we have that whole like first initiative, like forgive and forget. Hey, here's your warning. You did this. Let's move on. Be better people. And the second one, we just immediately start handing out year-long bans. Third one's permanent ban, and
Yeah.
it just goes on from there. But I mean, I think that's anything else in the world. People try to do it. I came from a world of playing competitive chess, and I always joke that there's not a grandmaster on earth that would ask for a take back if he gave his queen away on mistake. So I try to play that way myself.
Yeah.
Because that's my mentality, but I don't hold everyone else to that because it wouldn't be fair. And that's kind of where I think of on it. But yeah, I mean, I know you had another question about like what I think about world leaders in the future.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we can sort of wrap up on this final question, which is obviously we're moving into 11th edition just very soon. That'll be coming within the next handful of months. We probably won't see much more in terms of updates for World Eaters, I wouldn't imagine. Maybe there'll be one more balance update, but I wouldn't expect any dramatic changes. But 11th edition obviously is going to bring with it a ton of change. So what are your sort of thoughts about World Eaters going into the future? Is there anything that you would like to see changed? Whether it be a new unit released or a new detachment or some kind of new mechanic in the game? And what's your sort of prospects going forward?
So to answer the first question, I would really like to see that Butcher Surgeon dude come out.
Yes.
As a huge enjoyer of the lore, I've been playing 40k for almost 25 years, or at least being a part of like the hobby or IP for that long. And one of my first books was a Grey Knights book, and this is back in 2000, 2001. And there's a scene where a demon of Khorne opens this door, and there's a bunch of like civilian imperial citizens, like women and children, and he just points at them and goes like, "Not worthy," and then leaves them alone because they aren't a worthy kill. And I think they've kind of changed Khorne to be this just like frothing madman, and they lost the aspect of like martial pride. That's my own view about the lore. But I would love to see the Butcher Surgeon come back. I don't really know what he would do. Maybe bring back a couple berserkers or give them an ability or something. That'd probably be fine. Some weird apothecary thing, like gives the whole unit like lethal hits or like lethal hits, and if the lethal hit's activated from the blessings, it's on 5. I don't know, something like that. And then like once per game. Yeah, once per game I bring back D3 dudes or something. That would have been totally fine. I would, so as my own little personal viewpoint, my first army in competitive 40k 9 years ago was Khorne Demonkin in 7th edition. And I would love for that detachment to get the love and respect it deserves. It would be, I think you just change Blood Tithe to be an automatic and not a dice roll, and you fix most of the problems, in my opinion at least. But with that being said, looking into 11th, I would also love to see some form of like advance in charge. I know everyone had the data slate rumor that Angron was getting advance in charge. I told everyone and their mother that was listening to me, like, that's never going to happen. They give him advance in charge again, the dude's going to be super busted. And I still think that's true. If you give Angron just straight up advance in charge without a CP cost to it, dude's too strong. It just becomes crazy what you can do with that man. But I think a stratagem, you change the one like in Berserker, like make the generic one for World Eaters instead of like their version of AOC is like 1 CP I can advance in charge or something. I think that fixes a lot of it.
I think that would be good. Like a generic stratagem. I think every faction should more or less have one. Like, the Marines all have their AOC, the World Eaters should have their version, and I think for World Eaters it would be something like advance in charge as a good generic stratagem.
100% agree. Now, for myself, before I made my original list and go to these events, I was considering Vessels of Wrath, which was kind of an interesting take. And I told my buddy, so it's almost same style list. I originally thought about the Demon Prince that can walk through walls with the enhancement, but I kind of just went away from it because it didn't same thing. The Demon Prince, even with walking through walls, he doesn't like trade well. He dies to too many
Yeah.
things. He doesn't demand the same answer Angron does. But one of the things I really pointed out in the ability was I get to pick 3 units. They can't be exalted. They can't be epic characters, but they can be basically any of my other key like squad leaders. But if I have like a unit like Invocatus leading a squad of berserkers, I can't pick Invocatus to be a Vessel of Wrath, but I can pick the squad leader.
Yeah.
And then I can give them any one of the buffs I want them to have. And then it has some decent stratagems to make up for the loss of the +2 strength, +1 attack. Like reroll wounds against monster character, pretty good. Especially when you talk about like Exalted 8-bound. Like they can punch up. The +1 AP getting tied to you have to be within 8 of a Vessel of Wrath character. Kind of flavorful, but most of the time it's going to work anyway. The -1 to wound strat being anything that's a Vessel of Wrath, it's just always a flat -1, or if you're more strength and my toughness is -1. I really thought about using that with 8-bound. All of a sudden, I can just make the champion a Vessel of Wrath, and then it's just straight up -1 to wound him for the whole shooting phase, and they can just absorb so much more punishment. The everything gets blood surge for a CP. That was another huge thought process because like I can go bring something on an objective, and if you shoot me, I'm just going to come fight you. And then all of a sudden, like you just can't shoot spawn because the spawn will come fight you. Or you can't go shoot, jackals or something because they'll just come fight you immediately. Or you have to be far enough away. And the idea was kind of keep people off primary with that strat. I played a couple practice games with it. I feel like there's a valid strategy there. I just haven't honed it into the exact working numbers I like. Berserker was just a generic, like, it works. It's all reliable. It works. There doesn't need to be crazy amount of change. The only difference really is I replace the footprints with Angron, lose another unit to make up the points difference, and then I go to town. I really think there's a way that makes Vessels of Wrath really good. The best thing I could think of, I was telling a buddy of mine about this, was the 3 units I pick for my Vessels. I can give them. I always still take Angron, fish for lethals to sustain across the board, and then I pick my 3 units that I want fight on death or I want 6-inch pylon, and they go to town. And then I have the units that want 3 buffs have 3 buffs. The other rest of my army that doesn't really care can have whatever they want.
Yeah, it also pairs quite well with Angron because if you do resurrect Angron and therefore you don't get your buffs, you can still pick 3 units and they will get a buff. Mm-hmm. So you still can go, cool, this turn I'm going to take fights on death on those 3 units and I'm going to get Angron back. Or I'm going to take the 6-inch pylon if I need it, or whatever. Yep. So yeah, I think that's valid. And I also think that the Exalted 8-bound, the rise in their prevalence, it unlocks a few different detachments because they're relatively detachment agnostic. Because they don't care about the +2 strength from Berserker Warband. And they get, sure, the +1 attack is nice, but if you're taking Vessels and you're able to get an additional blessing on them and you put Sustained on them that you otherwise wouldn't have, that's kind of getting an extra attack, right? So, I think that in something like Vessels, the Exalted 8-bound kind of are more or less the same, in which case, if you're taking a bunch of them, all of a sudden you're not really losing that much out of the detachment swap. You're just getting a different suite of stratagems. And there's some really interesting stratagems in there.
Yeah, the Blood Surge is something I really... because I found in a lot of the games with World Leaders, like we were talking about with the sticky objectives, right? Oh, I move my Swooping Hawks or this 1 unit on this objective, and then I'll shoot this unit. Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. If you don't kill me, I'm going to come fight you now. And I think... Because I think the way World Leaders generally win is I force you to overcommit, kind of like Necrons. Where, like, if you don't kill me, I'm a huge problem immediately. Yeah. And with the ability to Blood Surge anything, I can kind of force that to happen anywhere.
Yeah, true.
Because, oh, cool, if you move on to this point to steal it from me, I can just, if you don't kill me in 1 activation, I'm coming into you. Which was kind of the biggest drawback I could find was without +2 strength, things like Berserkers just don't punch up. That's like the biggest, but like again, I go back and I just go, I don't give a shit. I'm just not taking I'm taking 1 team of Berserkers.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to a bunch of 8-bound, and they are going to kill most things anyway, so I don't really care. Still double Forge Fiend. So like the example list I had was like triple Exalted 8-bound, double Forge Fiend, triple Spawn, 2 Jackals, Angron, Karn unit, Rhino, and then I had like 95 points left over, and I was kind of figuring out what I want to do with it. That's kind of where I ended with list construction after like revising things. but yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. I mean, with the 95 points, I was like, I might just take like a random character to just like he like walks on and does an action, or like he walks on and there's a threat somewhere, and like it's kind of whatever. But also like I was like maybe I take like Goremongers. Like I thought about switching a team to from Jackals to Goremongers, just in this detachment because again like I can hide behind like my opponent's natural or something, and then if you do come shoot me, if you're on your if you're on your natural, I can just come tag you.
Yeah.
Um, so that was a thought because basically I could react to move D6, move, and Surge is only locked to phase. So then when you go to shooting phase, you shoot me, you don't kill me, I'll come touch them.
Hell
So
yeah. All right.
that was an idea.
What about any other new units that you'd like to see? I know you mentioned the Berserker Surgeon.
Yeah,
Actually, first on the Berserker Surgeon, do you think that's a fake or do you think that's legit?
I think it's 100% legit. Like
I think it's legit as well.
I 100% think it's legit. I don't know if it'll come out until like 11th. But I feel like that model, it looked real. When I first saw it, even with that kind of blurry image, I think everyone else saw, he looked legit. He looked real. It kind of looked like it could be a kit bash, but I felt like if it is, it looks like a really good one. And it feels kind of weird that somebody would like say this is a new model and then it's actually a kit bash they worked on because that just seems like throwing your good work away.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of inclined to believe that it is a real model. Other models I would like something other than just base berserkers, like some other type of like troops choice. Like my only troop in the whole detachment and the whole army is berserkers. And I feel like that's kind of like a lost straw that could be something else.
Yeah, I feel like they
I,
missed a trick on the Berserkers. Like when they released the 8 bound, it's like one kit that can do 8 bound or Exalted 8 bound. I think they should
yeah,
have done Berserkers or Exalted Berserkers. And like just a weapon swap. That's all you need.
yeah,
Just in the kit, put the weapons on hands instead of on an arm. So you've got the
yeah,
arms and then you've got different hands. And then just
yeah,
have one set of hands as a bolt pistol and a chain axe. And then another set of weapons is like two power swords or
yeah.
like a meteor hammer or like a flail or a glaive or something like so you
So
can have like an exalted berserker unit. They should have done that.
yeah,
It's such a missed
I
opportunity.
thought about this when I was talking to a different buddy about this from a lore perspective. And I said, I think they should have brought back like the gladiators
Yeah, the
from 30K.
rampagers.
Yeah, rampagers, and give them gladiator style weapons like
Yeah,
Rome, like the net and spear, the twin sabers, like stuff like that.
yeah,
And then they can all be those gladiator weapons. Give them a generic whatever you want, like 522 or 521 or whatever you think is fair. And then give them a different rule and a different ability. And it's like now I have two unique things other than like, oh, my berserkers all do the same thing.
yeah, yeah.
So
I agree. Yeah, and the only other thing that I would kill for him to bring it back is the Dread Claw and the Charybdis Assault Claw. Like the fact that there's no drop pods in Chaos, I feel like this could
yeah,
be a niche that World Eaters could fill that would make them truly
yes,
unique. Because currently World Eaters and Emperor's Children, it's like, what's the real difference? Like they're
yeah,
elite combat infantry. They've got a Primarch. They've got we've got the Forge Fiends for shooting. They've got the Noise Marines. Like it's kind of just the same army. It's just they're pink and we're red. Whereas if we had access to the drop pods, well, that unlocks another way for World Eaters to play. So if
yeah.
GW is watching, do it.
Yeah, I would love some type of like Dreadclaw assault. I mean, like just list ideas. Like I tried to do a core track thing with the Lance and the +1 charge, but like I felt like without the extra AP, like Berserkers just kind of fall flat, especially with all the
Yes.
2-up that exists out there right now. So,
Yeah, agreed.
but you could very quickly fix that. Like some type of Dreadclaw assault thing would be really cool. And you could even change the drop pod rule and just be like, hey, they get a rapid for free turn 2 and 3, and like that's really cool and that's unique to them.
Yeah.
But I think there's so, I mean, like I'm a huge lore guy. I think there's so many options that they could do. Like if you've read a lot of the Furnace Wrath books, like Mad Ones, they're Hellbrutes, but they're like the wolf in Hellbrutes. Like they're just crazy. I know we kind of got our own rule for it, but like you could do like a specific Hellbrute model that is World Leader specific
Yeah,
and
that'd be
give
cool.
them a double melee weapon with some unique ability or something. I don't know. There's so many options. I kind of like my Forge Fiends are painted World Leaders colors, but like for my wife that likes to play, my wife and my kid come with me to all my 40K events. And if you watch any of my stream games, they're there all the time next to me watching me play. But she has a Chaos Army, and my Forge Fiends are painted red and gold. but they can be played with Chaos Space Marines. And I kind of don't like that. I wish
Yeah.
there was like some level of uniqueness. One of my buddies does 3D printing, has 3D printed a lot of extra bits for like my Rhinos, for my Predators, for my Land Raiders, so that I can World Eater-fy them, if you will.
Yeah, especially in this day and age where each unit has its own datasheet abilities. Like, our Rhino is fundamentally different than a Chaos Space Marine Rhino. Like, we have that reactive disembark ability. Like, so having a unique model to represent the fact that we have unique rules, I think is a really good opportunity. And to be honest, GW's probably got almost everything we've just discussed on the plan. It's just a matter of releasing it over time, right? They don't want to just go, cool, here's everything you want right now, and then look at the whiteboard in the office and be like, what are we going to release in 6 months? We've got nothing left. We've released it all already. So they're probably planning to do all of these things over time, which is fine. You know, it keeps the game interesting, keeps it fresh. So I'm not by any means saying they need to release it all now. But yeah. Anyway, I might wrap it up here. Thank you very much for your time. I really do appreciate you coming on and sharing all of your insights, especially those around Angron and the way you used him in the games. I think people are going to get a ton of value out of that. And now when you start seeing every second World Eaters player start running Angron, you can walk away being like, yep, I did that. I might even end up running him myself in a few practice games just to sort of get a feel for him as well. But yeah, so thanks for coming on. I really appreciate your time. Is there anything you want to shout out before we go? Any? I know we already discussed your YouTube channel. I'll make sure there's links to that in the description. But like, any upcoming plans that people should be aware of that they can tune in for?
So, I mean, the only two things. So, one, like again, like you said, like our YouTube channel, Safety's Off, and our team in the Eastern U.S. We stream all the time. I'm gonna, in the near future, offer a coaching service in the new year. I just got the name saved in the U.S. It's called the Conquerors Initiative.
Nice.
Yeah, it was just a cool idea I had. I've had a lot of people approach me and ask me about it. So that's it. You can find me on Facebook, Seth Jonas Piper. You can also find me on Discord. Like it says, War Master, and it has my name, Seth, in parentheses. I'm always around. I do a lot of lore stuff. I do a lot of tactic stuff. I play a lot of different armies. I've been playing for, like I said, like 20-something years. I have a bajillion armies. And we have a lot of events coming up. If you're in the Eastern U.S., we got one on 10th and 11th. I'll be TOing. It'll be a GT. We have another one in February, right before Cherokee, for those in the U.S. know what that is. And then we run GTs about every other month here in the Eastern U.S. with our partner teams. So if you're in the area, hit us up. We'll get you in our events. We have a lot of really friendly people to play in. But otherwise, I really appreciate being on the channel, and I appreciate your time.
Well, thanks, Matt. I'll talk to you soon.
Exalted.